It's been over 100 years since dungeons brought a new era of very dangerous monsters to the world. To survive, some people began to awaken very special abilities. Now we see a hand tightly gripping another person's clothes. The white-haired guy tries to explain his new adjustment that would make a skill way more useful. He stands there begging for the professor to speak well of his research paper. But the old man with glasses just snatches the papers from his hand with a very serious expression. Then, out of nowhere, the mage creates a blue flame that gives the poor researcher a huge scare. The white-haired guy is in shock, breaking out in a cold sweat as he listens to some very harsh words. The professor says that a thesis from a low-class guy isn't even worth reading at all. The people with powers became mages, and their strength was measured by just one single thing. Success depended on a diploma, and the strongest always studied at the best colleges. Meanwhile, the poorer folks ended up at the bottom with no chance of changing their lives. This was the sad and harsh reality of that whole world for ordinary people. The old man says that skills are the same for everyone, and that the idea of adjusting them is absurd, and with that, he rips the research in half, saying it was all trash created by a nobody. Then the professor throws all the papers into the air, saying they wouldn't be accepted anywhere. The poor guy falls to his knees, hearing that he'd be better off begging on the street. A while later, we see the poor man huddled in an alley as snow falls on his head. He's shivering from the cold and feels like garbage because of the professor's cruel words. But the sadness turns into intense anger, and the white-haired man punches a trash can, cursing the professor. He gets worked up, wondering why they can't see that his technique would help weaker mages. Suddenly, the mood changes, and the researcher is startled when someone calls him a punching bag. Two well-dressed playboys are staring at the poor man with very wicked smiles. A moment later, the poor guy is thrown hard to the ground, feeling immense pain from the impact. The bullies look at the guy on the ground, and one of them says he's not sure if it's a good idea to hit him so much. The other blonde one just laughs and says a weirdo dressed in rags like that doesn't go to their school. Then a foot stomps down hard right next to his face, threatening to end the guy. The bully smushes the white-haired man's face and says no one would care if he disappeared. His red-haired friend agrees with this cruelty, and the two continue to laugh at the poor man. But the man on the ground grinds his teeth in rage, and the blonde guy is a little surprised by this. To put the trash in its place, the student creates a bright ball of energy in front of the guy's face. The magic glows brightly on the bully's finger, showing the immense danger of the attack. The kid gives a confident, evil smile, ready to unleash his power without mercy. With the energy in his hand, he mockingly asks if the beggar has the guts to fight back now. He warns that if Trash challenges the college elite, he won't even be able to live in the alleys. The white-haired man creates a small blue flame in his hand, sweating from fear of the threat. In his mind, if he could use his adjustment technique, it would be easy to take these guys down. But in this world, a diploma was everything, and a guy from the bottom couldn't fight the elite. With his pride completely wounded, the poor researcher quickly gets up and starts running away. In pure desperation, he runs for the alley exit, screaming for help from anyone on the street. The poor man runs frantically, asking the people on the street to call the police as fast as possible. But his panicked face only ends up scaring a woman who was passing by. Then, the mother pulls her son away and tells him to study hard so he doesn't become trash when he grows up. Hearing that completely shatters what little hope the poor man still had inside him. And to make things worse, the blonde student hits the poor guy in the back with a powerful magic spell. The huge impact throws the white-haired man against the wall, injuring him badly. He's left breathless, losing his strength, and feels like his body can't take any more. And with that, the wicked young men look at the guy on the ground with cruel smiles on their faces. But they realize they've gone too far and decide to run away from the scene. The researcher is left lying on the cold ground as his life slowly fades away. In his final moments, he regrets never having talent or a good education. He wonders if being low class justifies so much cruelty and all this neglect. Then the poor guy reaches out his hand, remembering how his life's work was humiliated. Then his arm falls limply, showing that his end had truly come. A tear rolls down his face as he accepts his very sad fate. Suddenly, the scene changes, and a boy with blue hair wakes up leaning against a tree trunk. The kid slowly opens his eyes, a bit confused by what's happening now. But his expression quickly changes to pure shock when he notices something around him. He jumps to his feet and stares at the place with complete surprise in his eyes. Touching his own chest, the boy breathes a sigh of relief when he realizes he's still alive. But the confusion only gets worse when he notices a very important detail in front of him. The kid stares at a huge building and recognizes it as the famous Tokonata Academy. That was the exact same place where he had studied some 70 years in the past. He finds it all very strange because this building had been renovated a long time ago, and with that, a crazy idea pops into his head, leaving him completely speechless. At that moment, a girl's scream for help interrupts his thoughts. The reincarnated boy runs toward the noise and finds a group of people causing trouble, and looking at the scene from a distance, the kid immediately figures out what's going on. A girl with purple hair is crying, while surrounded by two students much bigger than her. The poor girl tries to back away, terrified of the wicked smile the bully is showing. The coward dangles the girl's student handbook, teasing her in a very cruel way. Without that document, the poor student wouldn't even be able to buy a piece of bread on the street. And holding her hair, the brute mockingly asks if she wants her handbook back. A moment later, he grabs the girl's arms and demands that she pay for the handbook first. The bully says with great anger that low-class trash has no human rights. Hearing those horrible words leaves the student in pure despair, unable to react. But out of nowhere, a powerful shot of blue magic hits the bully right in the face. The impact is so strong that the brute flies backward and lands on his back on the stone ground. The girl and the other bully are in shock from the surprise attack that came out of nowhere. The friend panics, trying to figure out who had the nerve to use magic. From a distance, we see the blue-haired boy with his hand forward, surrounded by a strong wind. He holds his attack pose and shows a very serious and focused look in the guy's direction. The bullies doubt the shot came from him because the distance was over 50 meters.